Good day, good day, good day, and welcome back to Celebrity Watch Gist, the only place on the internet where the royalty is always piping hot and nobody is safe. Now, I need you to put down whatever you are eating right now because what we are about to get into today is going to make your jaw hit the floor so hard it leaves a dent. We are talking about the British royal family. We are talking about Meghan Markle, and we are talking about one of the most jaw-dropping, whisper-filled, absolutely scandalous moments in modern royal history. The day Queen Elizabeth II took her final breath and Meghan was reportedly told in the most polite British way possible to stay back. Yeah, stay back from the deathbed of the Queen of England. Let that marinate for a second. Quick favor before we dive in. If you are loving this kind of content, hit that subscribe button right now. Over 92% of viewers watching this have not subscribed yet. It is free, takes about 1 second, and means the absolute world to us here at Celebrity Watch Gist. Thanks if you did. Now, back to the show. So, let us set the scene. It is September 2022. Balmoral Castle, Scotland. The Queen's health has taken a sharp and serious turn. The entire royal family is scrambling to get to her side. Charles, William, Anne, Andrew, Edward, basically anyone with a royal title and a working private jet was on their way. And then there was Harry. Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, who had spent the last 2 years essentially going to war with the institution his grandmother spent 70 years building. He rushed to get there too. But here's where the story gets juicy. Meghan was originally supposed to travel with him, and then suddenly she was not. Now, the official story: Meghan stayed behind in Edinburgh at the request of the palace so as not to overwhelm the Queen during such a delicate time. That was the line. That was the very carefully worded, very British, very diplomatic line. But honey, nobody in this universe actually believed that was the whole story, because when has the royal family ever given you the whole story? Let us talk about the timeline, because the details here are everything. Harry reportedly received the call that the Queen's condition had worsened significantly while he and Meghan were still in Edinburgh, fresh off a charity engagement. He moved fast, but what sources close to the palace and multiple royal reporters began revealing shortly after was that there was a deliberate decision made, and it was not just logistical, that Meghan would not be at Balmoral when the Queen passed. Whether that decision came from the senior royals, from the household staff, or from some unspoken understanding that her presence would cause more tension than comfort, the message was crystal clear. Meghan was not welcome in that room.
And let us be honest for a second, because context matters here. This did not happen in a vacuum. This happened after the interview, after the Oprah sit-down that rocked the entire royal family like a 9.0 earthquake. After claims of racism, neglect, and institutional cruelty. After Harry's memoir Spare, which read less like a book and more like a decade's worth of therapy sessions printed on paper. After Netflix documentaries, podcast episodes, and about 17 different public statements that made it very clear Harry and Meghan were not just stepping back from royal duties, they were detonating a bomb on their way out the door. So when the Queen is on her deathbed and the family is gathering in grief, you genuinely think everyone in that castle was thrilled about the idea of Meghan showing up with a camera crew? Okay, maybe not a camera crew, but you get the point. The tension was already nuclear. Adding Meghan to that room would have been like pouring gasoline on a bonfire and then acting surprised when something burns. But here's where it gets even more complicated, because we need to talk about what Harry himself has said. In Spare, Harry describes the frantic rush to get to Balmoral. He describes the phone calls, the urgency, the blur of emotions. And what he does not describe in detail, what he dances around with the kind of careful word choice that tells you there is more, is why exactly Meghan stayed behind. He says she encouraged him to go. He says she was supportive. But he never quite explains who made the call that she would not be there. And that silence, that right there is its own kind of answer. Royal commentators and insiders have since filled in some of those blanks. Reports suggest that it was communicated through back channels, the kind of thing where nobody sends a formal memo, but everyone understands the assignment. that Meghan's presence at Balmoral would not be appropriate given the state of family relations. One source described it as a matter of keeping the peace during an impossible moment, which sounds very reasonable until you realize that keeping the peace essentially meant excluding the woman who had married into this family from saying goodbye to its matriarch. And look, we have to be fair here, because this story has layers. There is a part of this that is genuinely heartbreaking, regardless of what you think about Meghan. She was Harry's wife. Whatever the drama, whatever the headlines, she was family, at least on paper. And to be kept away from that moment by whatever forces or decisions or unspoken rules were at play, that is not nothing. That is a significant exclusion, and it tells you everything about just how broken those relationships had become. But then there is the other side, and Celebrity Watchgist always gives you both sides, because we are not here to gaslight you, we are here to enlighten you. The royal family, particularly William and Charles, had been through an extraordinary amount of public humiliation in the years leading up to this moment. Claims made in interviews, details leaked, private conversations aired on global television. If you are William and your grandmother is dying, and you are already carrying the weight of an entire monarchy on your shoulders, is it really that outrageous to want that room to be free of the person who, fairly or not, became the face of everything that was tearing the family apart? That is not villainous. That is human. Messy and painful and complicated, but human. What makes this story so utterly fascinating is that it is not black and white. There is no clean villain and no clean hero. There is just a family, one of the most famous families on earth, completely fractured at the worst possible moment, trying to navigate grief while also navigating a war of their own making. And caught right in the middle of it is Meghan, standing somewhere in Edinburgh, waiting for news while the world turns without her. Harry did make it to Balmoral, but he arrived after the Queen had already passed. So in a cruel twist, even he did not get the goodbye he was racing toward. He got there in time for grief, but not in time for the Queen. And Meghan watched all of it from a distance, from a hotel room, from a screen, from the outside looking in, which, if you think about it, is a metaphor for her entire experience with the royal family from day one. Since the Queen's passing, the rift has only grown wider. Harry and Meghan have remained in California, their royal duties a distant memory, their relationship with the palace about as warm as a British winter. King Charles's coronation came and went, and while Harry attended solo, Meghan stayed home. The pattern, it seems, has become consistent. Meghan and the royal family in the same place at the same time is simply not something that happens anymore. Whether that is by her choice, their choice, or some mutually exhausting agreement to just keep the distance, nobody is officially saying. But everybody is watching. The Meghan and the royal story is one of those sagas that somehow manages to be more dramatic with every new chapter. Just when you think the dust is settled, something shifts, something leaks, and suddenly the whole internet is on fire again. And we will be here every single time, breaking it down, calling it out, and keeping it absolutely real for you. Because that is what we do at Celebrity Watchgist. No fluff, no filter, just the truth, served with a little extra spice. Thank you so much for watching today. You are genuinely the reason we keep doing this. We'll see you in the next one.